It's being run by Clark Baker, which is myself, and John Sybalsky. We had a lot of discussion among ourselves as to how we should run this session, what the people who are here are really after. Could we just give you, good dancing examples? Maybe I should just give you a copy of my C1 choreography over the last year, who knows what. What we decided on is mixing up a couple of things that John was after, that I was after, and from talking to some dancers and C1 callers in our area, or my area, is I took 8 old C1 sequences from a while ago, and I have them on a piece of paper. I would like each of you to individually read over those 8 sequences, and for each one, just write somewhere so you can tell what you wrote, whether you think the sequence is easy, medium, hard, or impossible. And after everyone's done that, we're going to dance the sequences, looking at how the square reacts to them, and decide, whether it really was easy, medium, hard, or impossible. And then we'll discuss a bit about what made the stuff easy or hard. In other words, how to control difficulty. And the second thing we want to look at is what weird or unusual things did I do using the C1 calls that you might be able to put in your dances also. And especially you might want to look for the ones that are both weird and easy, because then people will get through them. And if you see some stuff that's hard, you might want to stay away from that, or maybe work on your dancers so they get to the point where they can do that. So first, why don't I hand out these things, and hopefully we can do in about 5 minutes. You can read through these 8 sequences and remember to write down what you think it is. Thank you. That's a good question. The question is are we calling to average dancers or what? I didn't put a lot of thought into that. I guess that everyone probably starts off calling C1 by doing a C1 workshop. That's pretty easy. You're teaching the dancers, you know what you're working with. The real problem, I think, is when a C1 caller goes and calls an outside C1 dance, especially for the first or second or third time. So maybe you should more think of these as, would you take these to your first outside dance into an unknown area, and maybe after you've warmed them up a bit, would you call these or not? Yes? Yeah, the 4 categories are easy, medium, hard, or impossible. How's this going?
Mm-hmm. Leave it on all the time. Even
Fine.
when music's going on, leave it on.
Great. Okay, John and I are going to fill out our forms too, because we haven't done this yet. There you go.
Well, no, we're with NBC Network News, and we're going to be doing some taping of you guys doing the challenge.
Okay.
I just kind of wanted to know what you're going to do so I can know roughly how it goes.
Okay. They're all going over stuff here. Mm-hmm. We're going to get a square of people up here. They're all callers, because we're all callers here. Callers don't always make the best dancers, but what can we do? Okay. And some of these sequences are hard, some are easy. Mm-hmm. And what we're interested in worrying about is how do you determine what's difficult and what's easy, and how do you add variety to dancing without making it too hard.
Okay, so this is the first one.
Right.
That's where it's going to go,
mm-hmm.
like that?
Mm-hmm. Okay. We think that'll take about, we're going to have to stop after each one just to ask people's reaction to it. We think it'll probably take us, normally it would take about 10 minutes to go through that. It'll probably take more like, say, 15 or 20 minutes.
Okay,
and there's going to be a discussion about the whole thing.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anyway.
Well, I didn't think I was going to do it. Roger was saying, do this. Same way. But that is what they do.
Yeah.
Demonstration of working out.
Yeah.
Take one of those. For each one, read the sequence and write whether you think it's easy, medium, hard, or impossible. If you were going outside to call a C1 dance somewhere, not to your own dancers. It's from an unusual position. If there's bad body flow, if the caller doesn't call it very well, those are all things that can cause them to break down. Some of them they've done, literally 1,000 times before. Some of them they probably aren't as popular. They've only done maybe 100 or 200 times. Yeah, I think any of them is impossible. Let me see how you agree with me. Impossible, okay, hard, right? What did you decide there? Okay. I put, okay. Hard, I put medium. Medium, I put medium. Medium, hard, medium, hard, medium, hard, medium. Well, we didn't differ by more than one, but still, pretty close. John and I are finished. How about you guys? Is there anyone who's not finished?
Mark?
Yes.
Just we need to make sure that we assume that your material works.
Yeah, you can assume it works.
This has been called to people, so.
Yeah, this has been called to people.
Dancers or callers?
To dancers.
Callers can't dance.
Yeah. This material was written, I think, in 1982. I just pulled it out of my C1 stack. The only reason I checked it is kind of to make sure I got some easy, some mediums, some hards, and some impossibles. And I was also worried about whether the C1 list had changed and whether there was anything on here that wasn't legitimate C1, because I thought it would look bad if I came here and didn't seem to know what C1 was. How are you doing, Don?
I'm only a 5 out of 8.
You're only a 5 out of 8?
It's taking me a week on the slow reader.
Uh-huh. Well, Don's working on his. Do we know what square we're going to get so they can get up there? Can we get a square of 8 C1 dancers?
Are there 8 people here who dance C1?
You have to have girls.
2 couples at least. Yeah, no, this mic's not working. I know.
You guys want to get any tape out of here? This is the only thing working in this room.
There hasn't been any interaction yet to speak of.
Okay, but I got blank spot on the tape.
Yeah. That's the way this session is. What time is it?
He says he has to leave at 5:45.
All right. Press Joe. We're sending you out to be ironed, are we?
Leave the mic on.
Do not turn that mic off.
Right you be. Alrighty, you guys set? Everybody has his favorite sense of what the things were, right?
Tape out a partner in the corner, 2 sides, left square, chain through, head sachet. Do an archy alaband, walk into an archy grand. Meet a gal, and slide through, right? Clover hand, square through, go 3. Left pass and roll your neighbor. Scoot back 1.5. The ends circulate. Centers scoot back 1.5. 6 to acey-deucey. Cut the interlock diamond. Centers walk and dodge. Ends zing. Sorry about that. Step and step. Wheel and swing through. Chain reaction. Scoot chain through. Kill the top. Left down, man the corner. Come back and promenade. Go round the ring. I bet you didn't. Have the heads past the ocean. I'll turn this up a shade. Scootin' plenty. All 8 recycle. Sides 2/3. Do a diamond circulate. Sides switch the wave. Interlock diamonds circulate. All the sides counter-rotate a half. Heads tag back to a wave. Everyone tag back to a wave. Tally-ho. Single wheel. Go out of left grand. Promenade. Go. Gonna get back home now. Do have the side star through. Double pass through, track 2. Do a walk and dodge, chase your neighbor. Ends circulate, centers walk and dodge. Cast a shadow. Stretch, cycle, and wheel. Turn through. Do a left, turn through. Turn through. Centers in, cast off, 3/4. Phooey, I called it wrong. Cast off another quarter. Sorry. Explode the line. Step and slide. The leads, trade, and roll start a split square chain the top. Regroup. Square through. Then around a left grand. I know, these guys don't have the right styling. Get back to sides, curly cross. Pass out, 3/4 tag and plenty. I'll drink to that. Chain reaction. Spin the top. Concentric recycle. Do a double pass through, concentric shake down. I wish you had a record reset on this. Double pass through. The axle, thank you. Yes, do a left square chain through. Left down, man the corner. Come back and promenade. Go moving around. We're seeing illustrations of all this stuff. Heads wheel through, veer left and the couples hinge. Triple trade. Ends bend and extend. Everyone diamond chain through. Do a turn and deal. Rotary spin. Explode the wave. Shirtless. Round off. Centers turn through. Left swing and mix. Is it getting hot in here for you guys? Also, transfer the column. Swing through. And a right on left grand. 5 down, 3 to go. Promenade to get back home and now have the sides curly Q and spread. Heads past the ocean. Diamond chain through. Couples circulate. Tag back to a wave. All 8 percolate. Wheel and spread. Square the bases. passes. No, they're not, are they? Pass to the center. Swing and circle a quarter. Boink. All 8 recycle. Chain reaction. Swing the fractions. 2/3 recycle. Guess which one I marked easy? Swing and mix. Left Alaband. Come back and promenade. Heads past the ocean. Scoot chain through and plenty. You're no fun at all. Extend the tag, switch to an interlock diamond, and quit talking while I call. 6-2 AC-doocy. Cut the interlock diamond. Crossover, circulate. Tag back to an ocean wave. Yeah, right. Trade, circulate, and weave. Cross by. Half a top. Men run, move along, and pass the ocean. Counter rotate a quarter. Cross by. And a man in the corner. Come back and promenade. Well, at least we marked that one hard. One more. Sides, curly cross. Spin the top. Relay the shadow. Explode the wave. Step and slide. The leads cross cast back. Any hand 3/4 through. All the bells trade. Ding dong. Scoot and dodge. Do a stretch shakedown. Swing through. Chain reaction. Too many girls. In roll, circulate, and about to the partner, turn about to the corner.
Thank you very much. Okay, why don't you guys have a seat? I was marking down all the trouble spots on my thing so we can talk about those. First, I'd like to get some tally of the votes for all the sequences the way you had written down before we started doing this. How many people in here said sequence number 1 was easy? Anybody? Medium? 1, 2, 3, 4, what'd you say?
I said medium plus.
Hard? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 hards. And impossible, anybody? The one gentleman couldn't do it. 1 impossible. Sequence number 2, how many easies? 1, 2, 3 easy. Mediums? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 medium. Hard? Impossible. Okay. Sequence number 3, how many easies? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 easies. Medium. 1, 2 mediums. Hard. 1, 2 hards. Impossible, anybody? Good. Number 4, how many easies? 1, 2, 3, 4. Medium. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think 10. 10 medium. How many hard for number 4? 1. Okay, 1 hard. Any impossible? Okay. The sequence number 5, how many easies? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 easies. 7.
Did you say 5?
Yeah, let's start over. Sequence number 5, how many people said it was easy? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think I got that right. 8 easy. How many people said sequence number 5 was medium? 1, 2. How many people said sequence number 5 was hard? 1, 2.
3? Or no?
How many people said sequence number 5 was impossible? 1, 2. Good, 2 impossibles. This is challenge after all. Sequence number 6. How many people thought it was easy? 1, 2. 5, 6, 7. I count 7 easies for... I'm lost. Sequence 6. 7 easies. How many people said sequence number 6 was medium? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Anyone say sequence number 6 was hard? 1, 2. Good. And how about impossible? Okay, no impossible. Sequence number 7, easy. 1, 2 easies. How many people said sequence 7 was medium? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think. 7 medium. How many people said sequence number 7 was hard? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. 6 hard. How many people said sequence number 7 was impossible? We have 1 impossible. And sequence number 8, the last one. How many people said it was easy? 1 easy. Medium. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9. 9 said medium. How about hard? 1, 2, 3 said, 4 said hard. 5. 5 hard. And how about impossible? Anyone think that last one was impossible? We have 1. Do you want to talk about, I have X's marked where, let's just review the sequences and maybe John and I can both talk about where we detected the callers or the dancers to have problems. Okay, sequence number 1, most people said was hard. I had marked it as hard. John had picked, I think, an impossible for sequence number 1. You guys did wonderful on it. Everything worked great as far as I remember, except for the peel the top at the end from Ocean Waves. So here we were, we did scoot chain through, we're in right hand Ocean Waves, and the call was peel the top. It ends up, okay, well let's just note that as being the hard part. It was a normal call from an unusual position. Maybe even a position where the flow isn't so great or where there isn't enough room to do it. Sequence number 2, I had sides counter-rotate a half. I noticed that there was one person who only heard a quarter. Okay, that gets into you do what you expect, and counter-rotates are almost always a quarter. I'm not sure that John emphasized that it was a half, and so not everyone knew to go. Fortunately, there's always someone behind you to push you along, so I think we made out okay. The vote on that was that 10 thought it was medium, I had a medium, and John had an easy. So, and no one broke down on it. It was just a little problem there. A little shaky, yeah. Sequence number 2 also looks like it's a medium because it's a pretty short sequence. Sequence 3, the turn through, left turn through thing, someone on the outside, when they were in a trade by position and they heard the call turn through, didn't realize that it was only the centers and was a little bit worried about should we face and turn through on the end. I think that person was put correct and the centers in came off okay. And something we didn't expect in this session is that then John, since he's calling my material, not his, expected a cast-off 3/4 and called a cast-off 3/4.
Which is exactly the kind of error that dancers make.
Which is the same kind of error that dancers make, and you know, obviously callers can make, and if you try to call someone else's material, there are just things in there you'd never call or never do in a certain way, and that's partly what the variety part's about. So I have that marked. I think the rest of the sequence went fine. We had 11 people say it was easy. I marked it as medium. John said hard. Hard. Do you want to say why you thought it was hard?
Turn through, left turn through, turn through.
Okay. I thought you danced the turn through, left turn through very well. Did people think that was an interesting thing to do? Does someone have a reaction? Okay, so a couple of people thought it was interesting. Do you think it would be hard for your dancer? Did you mark the sequence, the level it was, because of the turn through, left turn through part? Because that was unusual, or you didn't think people could do it? Yeah. Okay, a couple of people are nodding on that. Sequence number 4. The first thing is curly cross gave someone problems. On sides curly cross. I'm not sure why. From there it was pass out, and the next call was 3/4 tag and plenty, and I saw a couple people balk because of perceived bad flow or actual bad flow. So there's a case where we might lose some dancers just because the flow's not so good. Certainly it degrades the sequence a bit. Everything went down fine till we had double pass through and concentric shakedown. Now we kind of warmed them up with concentric recycle, but that's a usual thing to call. Concentric shakedown isn't quite as usual, and we had to wait just a second to catch up with one person being a little late into the middle. Then it was pass through, and pass the axle. John miscalled that, I believe, with a double pass through, and we had him recover with the axle. So again, it was something unusual that I had written that, since he hadn't memorized the card or anything, threw him while I was just trying to read it. After that, I think that was the only problem there. Oh, was there something wrong with left square chain through? Do you guys remember?
Somebody pulled by and quartered right.
Oh, someone pulled by and quartered right. So this is a version of a left call that you normally do right, that again, because it's a left thing, and lefts are less usual than rights. Okay, moving on. Oh, and our rating for that was we had 4 easy, 10 medium, and 1 hard. I had a medium. We actually had 1, 2, 3, 4 little marks on that. The curly cross, the bad flow, the John missing something, and the left square chain through. I might almost think that we misjudged that and that it's really a little harder. Even though it's a nice short guy, it's still a little harder than we might have thought. Okay, number 5. Let's see. Okay, ends bend and extend. I believe that's an unusual thing. It's an unusual use of ends bend. It's not something you normally hear. People seem to do that okay, although someone was out of position, the diamond chain through was a little shaky. So maybe the ends bend and extend wasn't quite as easy as I might have thought. It added variety. I don't know what the cost was. I have everything else working out pretty good. The rating on this sequence was 8 people said easy, 2 said medium, 2 said hard, and 2 said impossible. I had it down as a hard.
I had medium.
John had medium, and we were kind of all over the board. What do the people think from dancing it? Was that really as hard or as easy as everyone said? Diane?
Don kind of mentioned it. Positions in the center there where the ends step.
Testing 1, 2. Okay, we just had the mic unplugged for a second. Hold on 1 second. Oops, I can't turn that off.
Could you turn your microphone down just a little bit?
Yes, I can. Okay. Ann had a comment.
Thank you. I just had a question on Clark's part here where it says the ends bend and extend. Does that not leave a gap in the center position there, so you have a diamond chain through next? I just had a little problem trying to see where the wave was in the handhold. We had a wave all right out here, but there was a gap of 2 bodies.
So you were expecting a center handhold as a clue to where the wave was. All right. We've hit hard thing number 1. Dancers try to remember as little as they can. I mean, you can teach somebody the whole definition for a call, and if you only use it from one place, his knowledge is going to atrophy until eventually he can only do it from there, because people are lazy. That's the way people do everything. Okay? One of the ways people remember less is by using clues. She was looking for a clue of a handhold to find the wave, and without it was lost. The people who were doing the peel the top were looking for the clue of a free hand to peel toward, and there wasn't one. So which way do I peel? Don wishes to say something.
Even the ends bend. Normally when you extend, you think of grabbing a handhold with somebody. And the ends were stepping ahead, but they weren't extending. And so the diamond wasn't clear. And unfortunately, when I went through and said impossible, I pictured them extending and being centers of the diamond, thought we had point-to-point diamonds, and could only picture 2/3 of a diamond chain through.
All right, so we are on the diamond chain through. So, okay. So 5 is somewhere in the muddy range, medium to hardish.
Okay, that puts us up to sequence number 6. I have my first mark that something went wrong. We did heads past the ocean, diamond chain through, and couples circulate. The diamond chain through was a bit shaky. It could be because of the way we got into diamonds, right? Sides curlicue and spread heads past the ocean. You don't instantly know there's diamonds. I didn't even give you a diamond circulate to get going first. It was just straight out diamond chain through. Maybe getting into that position in an unusual way, it cost us a little bit. I don't know if it's worth it or not. Okay, we have a comment over here.
The diamond chain through, after the curly cross, someone was turned wrong in the curly cross, and you ended up with both points facing the same direction. Had the curly
On the curlicue and spread, someone was facing incorrectly?
Someone turned. Otherwise, I think it would have flowed rather nicely.
Okay, so the comment is the curlicue and spread really caused the problem because someone was turned around on that, and that made the diamond chain through a bit tough. I didn't pick that up when I was watching it. Now, I went down, everything went good. Maybe John was getting ahead of you or you were getting behind or whatever, but swing and circle a quarter, all 8 recycle, and chain reaction was starting to go down the tubes because I didn't see a clear-cut swing and circle a quarter. Maybe it was past the center swing and circle a quarter. I don't quite know where the problem was. Maybe does one of the people who was dancing it
one of the outsides failed to move to the end of the wave.
Right.
Okay, so someone didn't execute the swing and circle a quarter correctly. I wouldn't normally, looking at it, think that past the center swing and circle a quarter would be hard.
Okay. This is difficulty thing number 2. What happened is that person lost something somewhere. Whenever you're doing anything, you can keep 4, maybe 5 things in your mind at once. Now, some of that is going to be what you're doing. Some of that is spent listening to the caller. Some of it is remembering what the next call is. And anytime you overflow those 4 things you can keep, something drops off the end. And here, the pass to the center followed by something unusual, the swing and circle a quarter, something dropped. And the thing that dropped was the fact that you're supposed to move on the swing and circle a quarter. Okay, so one way you can play difficulty is by stacking things up. Where an inexperienced dancer who is still doing things piece by piece and has to keep each of those pieces in his mind, okay, you can push stuff off the end of his short-term memory real fast. Okay, so there's a place you have to play. Again, you can't talk too far ahead to somebody like that because he'll spend his time listening and lose what he's doing.
We're up to sequence 7. Oh, I'm sorry, the rating on sequence 6, we had 7 easy, 7 medium, 2 hard. I had marked it as an easy. I think John for sequence 6 had an easy. And I don't think the sequence ended up being as easy as we might have thought. In fact, we could have lost some dancers right off the bat on that diamond chain throw. So I think you guys hit it closer than we did with having it more be medium. A question that comes to my mind is, what if we did a whole tip of, if I went to an outside dance and called all sequences that we thought were medium, is that going to be a good dance or not? We'll hit that maybe a little later. Sequence 7, right off the bat. Heads past the ocean. Presumably that went okay. The scoot chain through and plenty. Scoot chain through seemed to give people a little bit of problem. Do you remember the turn through? Do you not remember the turn through? People were talking saying remember the turn through. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, I got a comment on that. It's the way it came out. Scoot chain through and
It is being taped.
Just the comment of the way that came out so fast. Scoot chain through and plenty. I was thrown for a second thinking of a variation of the call scoot chain through without thinking of the calls 2 separately. Scoot chain through and then and plenty. I didn't think of it that way. I just heard scoot chain through and plenty and was thrown immediately what I was going to do.
Okay, so you were expecting something. I violated your expectation.
I heard it all together as one phrase and as one call, the way you said it.
And it didn't.
And it didn't click with anything I knew at that moment.
It sounded Martian.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. If you were calling it and you wanted more success to get around that, right, you'd say scoot chain through, and right as they were coming into the end, you'd then say everyone plenty or plenty outsides right. Okay. So that went through. I think you recovered from that. We're down to crossover, circulate, tag back to a wave. That was fine. Trade, circulate, and weave. Something went wrong there. Again, I believe John said it all as one thing. Trade, circulate, and weave. Trade, circulate doesn't take that long after all. Does anyone want to comment on why the weave went away?
Yeah.
Okay, the comment was that there's a wrong handhold there.
Wrong weave.
The weave was incorrect. It was more like a follow-through to end in a two-face line, and not everyone ever recovered. Cross by half the top, men run, move along. It was muddling past the ocean, counter rotate a quarter. Some people were seeing it cross by, and a couple people got it. But the square really broke down on that. Now, our rating was 2 easy, 7 medium, 6 hard, and 1 impossible. So, in a sense, we correctly rated it a little bit harder than all the rest. So I think we hit that okay. The last one, sides curly cross. Well, again, we had problems with curly cross. So that's 2 times curly cross has been hard.
We gave you a second chance.
Yeah, from a static square. Yeah, so I think that's pretty impressive. I don't think everyone realizes that's as tough a call as that.
It's not a C1 call. What do you want?
Where is it?
C1 list.
A1?
Oh, it's A1. Well, maybe that's the problem. Do people in general use curly cross at your C1 dances?
You bet.
A couple of you bets and some other muttering like, yeah. Okay. For the tapes.
And a grumble from the back of the hall.
A grumble from the back of the hall. So now we're going down. Things are pretty good. Okay, bells, trades, scoot and dodge, stretch, shakedown. That was from lines of 4 back to back. I think that's an unusual use of stretch. I think that normally at C1 people think of stretch like stretch, recycle. I don't know what other ones. Stretch also, right, that's kind of like the recycle. Maybe even stretch linear cycle for that matter. Something out of a tidal wave. From lines back to back, having a stretch move. I think stretch shakedown is particularly nice. There's nothing wrong with the flow or anything like that. It's just, unless you've been exposed to it, it's going to be hard. Okay, I don't know if it's worth exposing dancers to it and then getting them good at it. And if everyone around the country does that, then we can use it. Maybe there aren't enough things like that make it worth it. But I think that was the problem there. And the rest of it looked just fine. We had our rating of 1 easy, 9 medium, 5 hard, and 1 impossible. And I had a medium, and John had a hard on it. So I think that was toward the medium hard end of things. I think John has some more comments.
You hope. Seeing that sort of brought out some things. Somebody turned wrong on a left square chain through. Nah, that wasn't what it brought out. People, again, are lazy, and they tend to remember as little as they can, and everybody knows after the right point on a square chain through, you turn right if you're a guy. Right? Okay, remembering as little as you can. You can play for easy or hard against that expectation. Switch to a diamond from a left-hand wave. People are going to head to the right because that's what they expect to do. Because they don't remember centers run, ends cross run. They remember, I head this way. It's easier. Okay? If you switch to an hourglass from left-hand waves, and you're lucky enough to get an hourglass out of it, some of the points can be facing the wrong way. People have a sense of what's right and wrong. And there's always a little critic running around in the back of your mind saying, yeah, this is okay, yeah, this is okay. No, this feels wrong, there's something I got to fix. You tried to do the turn through. You were left standing facing out for a long time. You know how people who are left facing out always turn around after a while. We got one. The reason they turn... Yeah, and the reason that they turn around is because they're sure something's wrong. After a while, guys never leave me standing out. Let's see what we can do to fix it. 7-second which?
7-second rule of isolation.
Ah, man has a name for it. Okay, people have critics. People have critics of 3 kinds. There are positional critics. I should be in a normal couple. If you have a left-hand wave and do a recycle, you may succeed. What's going to determine whether you succeed or not? Likely. Which one is it? Should the man be in the center or on the end for that to succeed?
Center.
Okay. Why?
Ends up normal.
Right, he ends up normal. If he's on the end, he'll start off the right way, and about halfway through he'll say, wait a minute, I'm backwards, and he'll fix it. And you'll end in normal-facing couples no matter what.
I don't agree. I disagree with that. I'd say I have better success with the men on the end.
Yeah.
Because they're used to being the dominant factor.
I've watched people I have just taught do it, and the dominant mistake I see is not that the man in the center tries to go the wrong way, but that he gets pulled along, and about halfway through it says, no, this is wrong, and does something. Okay, but both of those...
The ladies do the same thing. The ladies are just as tall as the men, and they start out and say, wait a minute, I'm on the wrong side. And they switch it just as often.
The ladies will switch just as often. Okay, this may not happen in every case. This is an example of something where a guy says position's wrong and tries to fix it. The third thing you'll see is people coming along expecting a particular call. If I set up a quarter line and do a chain reaction, that guy who's counter-rotating around the outside's coming up expecting an arm turn, because that's almost always what it is. And he winds up with somebody facing the same way as him, and they'll hinge some number of times and then finally do an arm turn. Because it's got to be an arm turn. Okay, so you can play people's habits. You can play people's sense of rightness, and you can violate it and it'll get hard. Or you can play along with it and stuff that should be hard will be easier. You can take advantage of how people do calls. Again, people do as little as they can to get away with it. They'll remember as little as they can. They won't remember the rule. They'll remember trade circulate, I point and go here, which is fine on trade circulate. If you're doing block calls, and you call in your block square through, guy says, fine, I go here, pulls by, quarters in, says I go here, pull by, quarters in. Fine, he sees where he's going and he goes there. Now get blocks that are couples back to back and say, in your block a vertical half tag. He no longer has the crutch of seeing where he's going to get there. So he'll try to, maybe they'll shake down. Maybe they'll single wheel and extend, but they'll lose which way the blocks were. Okay, again, you're playing off clues that they're using while dancing. I've about run out of things that you can play easy for hard. I mean, there's the obvious stuff of is the call common or not. And you assume you all know those. What I'm sort of have been trying to do is take, how do people's minds work? Let's find out what the limits are and how they tend to do things, and let's play off those to create difficulty or easiness. You wish to talk about the variety in these things, I believe.
Don, do you have some comments? Yeah.
Aside from the obvious factors of making things difficult by having poor body movement or overflow, there was quite a bit of overflow in that, Clark. I got to talk to you about that. On some of the things, one, we've done, I and a few others have done some similar kind of stuff at Mainstream, and we came to some interesting conclusions. And I find that I hope you'll join me in drawing the same conclusions here that we showed at Mainstream. And that is that we took a vote after just reading these without even watching, and then pretty much concurred on watching. And there was a heavy weighting that we were all in pretty much agreement on most of whether they were easy through hard. We had a lot of agreement where they fell. There was a little more disparity than we see at Mainstream, but we conducted it in a different way. And that agreement tells me one thing, and maybe should tell you guys something too, that we can tell that we have within us the ability, the choreographic ability, to tell beforehand whether something is going to be hard or medium or easy. And therefore, in using our judgment in calling, whether we're trying to make it hard or trying to make it easy, we have this ability within us already to know beforehand, so that as John said, when you're going into a strange area, what do you start with? Again, it's your judgment whether you want to blow them away right away or whether you want to start easy and let them know that they can dance to you, but it might be boring. It's your judgment what you do with it, but at least you have that ability to know what's hard and what's easy, and we've proven that here.
Everybody seems to have the intuition of difficulty to some degree or another. What I was trying to do was bring out to the front 3, 4, maybe 5 things that do affect it, so that you then have some tools to work with when you need to tune the controls.
We are going to end this session at 6 o'clock, so we have time for dinner, just in case you're wondering. And we do have a handout for those who stay to the end. One suggestion I had from some...
Recap of these points.
It's a recap of all these points we're making is on the other handout. And maybe if anyone listens to the tape, I will try to give a copy of both the sequences and the handout to the office, so if someone needs to write to CALLERLAB, maybe they'll be able to get a copy of this if they listen to the tape. Okay. I wanted to talk a bit about how to create some variety. The first thing I think I did in these sequences, and as I say, these were just old sequences I picked up, and I was hoping to find some variety in them. I think I'm almost a better writer a couple of years ago than I am now. The first one is having the ends bend from a tidal wave. I just thought that was an unusual use of ends bend. The usual use of ends bend would be from lines back to back, have the ends bend and start a split square through or split square chain through or something like that. When I spoke with John about this, his suggestion is from lines back to back, have the ends bend and touch a quarter. That would also be kind of an unusual use of ends bend because you don't expect that. Now you're in an ugly setup. What do you do from there? Well, those facing pass through and the others Okay, now that's important because we've managed to name two dancers, the others, who would be really hard to name otherwise. You'd have to say the person following a person, or if you're lucky, their heads. But if you say those facing pass through and the others do something, they'll know they're inactive, they'll know to do it. The others peel off and bend the line, for example. And from there, you could all 8 circulate. I don't know what you'd do from there. Funny square through 2 and a couple circulate. Who knows? But just doing something unusual like ends bend and touch a quarter will add some variety. Hopefully, the dancers will be able to do that. Now, let's see where I'm going down here. Okay, the use of unusual sequences of calls. For example, while I did the ends bend thing, I was thinking stuff like, if you do swing through, you always expect boys run, but you can put something else in there, obviously. And there's some things that don't flow or whatever, but there were a lot of cases, I think, where I did something, and even John didn't expect the next call. He expected a cast off 3/4, but yet it was something different. Something that's used a lot, especially when you write material rather than sight calling it, is having some people do call A while other people do call B. Centers are doing square chain through while the ends counter-rotate a half or something like that. That kind of thing adds a lot of variety, sometimes without being difficult.
It's also a good way out of the weird positions.
Yeah, once you get yourself into a weird position, you often have to call like that to get yourself out. Hopefully you can say all the words quick enough and keep people moving. From two-faced lines, you could have the centers follow your neighbor while the ends zing, and then, chain reaction or something like that. Another thing that lets you control some difficulty and also add some variety is obviously fractionalizing things. AC-doocy centers go 1.5, or something of that nature. Chain reaction, turn the star a half. That's not too hard for people, I don't believe, but yet it adds some variety. I think the difference between a dance where all the calls were done normally and the dance where all the stars were turned different, and this call here you only did 2/3 of it and something like that, or you squared through an unusual number of hands or something, I think that could add some variety. Use phantoms when they're easy. Phantoms get to be real hard. I kind of have this belief that triple boxes are the right place to introduce people to phantoms rather than the C1 type phantoms where you have boy, boy, girl, girl wave and have the men hinge. But when you do that, you can use if the men have hinged, you can do phantom trade circulate and calls where phantom circulate, calls where afterwards you end up with a person, maybe someone different, but at least you're holding on to somebody. Calls from phantoms that are very difficult would be things like phantom swing through, where you're left out in outer space and you are holding on to no one. Even if you do one call that leaves you out and another call that puts you back to somebody, that gets, I think, quite a bit tougher.
Because you lose the clue.
Because you lose the clue, right. There's no one to hold on to. It's hard to get your position. You're not used to looking at that. Another thing, a caller asked me, how do I get into blocks? And, well, you step forward and have someone trade. Well, that's not very good. What's a more innovative way of getting into blocks? After all, this is kind of choreography we're talking about. And it'd be neat to see someone just have 100 ways to get in and out of blocks. I was trying to think of something. I was hoping I'd hit one on my cards, but I didn't. But something I was thinking of is, let's say you have T-bone lines. The men think they're in right-hand ocean waves looking out. The ladies think they're in right-hand columns. I'm not sure how you got there. It probably wouldn't be too hard. From there, you could say, have the men phantom touch a quarter. Suddenly you're in blocks. You've gotten out of one yucky setup. You've gotten right into another one that you're trying to set up that you normally have to force to do it. And from there you could, in your block, circulate, or in your block, walk and dodge or something like that. I think that's, we can probably come up with other things. Now, the phantom touch a quarter, what level is that on? I have no idea. You can't always take every little piece of choreography and figure out what level it's on. But it's probably something that I think a C1 dancer would be able to get through. And the last thing I have listed down here is do calls with fewer than the usual number of people. If you were in diamonds, okay, I think this is difficult. You could have the points peel off and bend the line, while the centers swing through or something like that. The points aren't usually used to being told to work. We had something where we had, I think, point zing in one of the sequences, or end zing.
The ends of two-phase line zing
and the centers do something else. Now, the case of peel-off is unusual because for peel-off you think you have a box of 4. Really, peel-off says you need 2 people, one following the other, and a center that they're working with respect to that center. So when you have the points of diamonds peel-off, they're really working toward the center of the set, and maybe they could think of working with the other points, but whatever. I find working with points to be pretty difficult. If I tell the points of diamonds to zoom, they almost never get it right. They might zing or something like that, but they won't zoom correctly. If I had them peel off, they aren't thinking that they're one following the other because they're used to thinking in their own diamond. They won't get that correctly either. Those are most of the things I had to cover. Are there any other people from the audience who want to come up and make a couple of comments on the mic about any of this? No.